Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to this long overdue episode of The Educated Fan. My name is Brandon, and I am joined here by your co-host, Sports Illustrated intern and writer, Andrew Moore. Just went ahead and cracked the news right there, just like that. You know what I mean? Welcome.
Hey, it's awesome, man. Thank you.
You're welcome
to everybody.
Congratulations.
It's been a I appreciate it.
Go ahead, sir.
Definitely been long overdue. Coming here on The Educated Fan. We've taken some time off. You were moving across Seattle, or all across the country to Seattle. My brother had a little bit of an accident, so I was kind of dealing with some family stuff. But don't worry, he's doing okay now. He's on the road to recovery. But yeah, man, we're now in the time of the year as far as football's concerned, where nothing's really going on. OTAs and off-season workouts are pretty much done, and the next thing we have is training camp at the end of July. So we're going to be doing a lot of talking over these next few weeks about the Colts, kind of just previewing the season, previewing the different position groups, and kind of talking about where the Colts are currently. But how you doing, man? It's been a minute.
I'm doing well. I've got some baller internet speed over here. It's pretty cool. So I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I got the jitters. I don't know if it's all the coffee I had or the excitement about being back, but yeah, I've seen you since our last episode. You know what I mean?
You have.
So it's been a minute. We missed you guys. Sorry, it's been a while. But we're back. We got a little Colts position preview of the week for you. We've got Andrew's favorite segment, New Kid at School, some NFL news and some other Colts news, obviously. But yeah, life was happening the last few weeks, so we've been out, and now we're back, and hopefully back on a regular Sunday schedule here. But yeah, if you guys hadn't heard the news, Andrew recently got a position as an intern for the Sports Illustrated. Literally Sports Illustrated, in their Horseshoe Huddle team for the Indianapolis Colts. Already has a couple of stories out. Already has a couple of published stories. One of his stories just so happened to be number one on their site for a little while. No big deal. Is it still number one?
No, we got a piece by Jake Arthur out right now that's talking about the potential breakout players for 2021. So definitely go and check that out. Mm-hmm. Horseshoe Huddle from Sports Illustrated. It's Jake Arthur, Zach Hicks, Josh Carney, and myself writing all about the Colts. So you'll see all of our articles all summer long and going into the season. Hopefully this internship leads to something more for me. But I'm excited. The guys are great. The content over there is great. Expert analysis. All the guys are top of the line. And guys, before I even joined, guys that I would look to their work and get my info from. I mean, we've had Jake on the podcast before, and he was absolutely phenomenal. So definitely go check it out and check out my pieces as well.
Yes, absolutely. Go check out his work. Great article on one of the things we're about to start covering right now, Andrew. Colts quarterback position is our preview position of the week. Basically, what we're doing every week for the next X amount of weeks is covering our opinion, I should say, and some factual things about each position across the Colts roster. And obviously, we got to start with quarterback. So every week, new position group. This week, quarterback. Andrew, why don't you go ahead and kick it off?
Yeah, and I think we're basically just going to start out with the guy that we've been talking about pretty much all offseason, and that's Carson Wentz. So we're going to be like it's not really going to be like a point by point thing that we've done previously. It's just going to be kind of like a general discussion about these position groups and what Brandon and I think about them. So, and I guess really the biggest question is, I mean, there's a lot of talk about Carson Wentz. What's he going to do? How's he going to transition from the Eagles to the Colts? Are we going to see the Carson Wentz of last year, or are we going to see a better version of Carson Wentz, one that we saw with the Eagles in 2017, 18, 19, and especially under Frank Reich? How can that connection really really get us back together and get us at a high quality tier position at the quarterback position. So really what the biggest question is, what are the realistic expectations for Carson Wentz this year? And honestly, I think they're good. I really do. I have got tremendous trust that Frank Reich and this entire Colts coaching staff are going to do the things necessary to really boost up, number one, Carson Wentz's confidence. I think that's what we need to talk about first. His confidence was just absolutely destroyed last year in Philadelphia. O-line was a mess. Wide receivers didn't really help him out at all. Coaching and scheme surely didn't help him out. And then when you're benched, your confidence goes down the drain. So I think that is going to be number one, is for the Colts, Frank Reich, and Marcus Brady, the offensive coordinator, really to build this offense around him in a way that can really boost his confidence early and kind of continually have it climb throughout the year.
Yeah, Andrew, we recently went on as guests to the UK Colts podcast. I'm sorry, UK Colts fan podcast, the number one UK site for Colts fans. And we talked about the importance of rebuilding Carson Wentz's confidence and how I specifically brought that up. I thought that was the number one most important thing to deal with Carson Wentz this year. Now, we also discussed there's obvious mechanical issues, the way he's been throwing the football the last year or so, decision-making, which, I think is largely influenced by the lack of offensive line, lack of run game. He's a guy that's been playing with the whole team on his back. He's had to go hero mode. He's had to, literally will that team to victories in 2019. And then this past year, obviously, the Jalen Hurts drafting, he's kind of just breathing down his neck, so that destroyed the confidence. And, the mechanical issues, I think, are a result of a lack of tools around him and just pure fear of getting hit every time he drops back.
That's definitely part of it. And when you're in that situation, and sometimes when it seemed like when you watch the film, Carson Wentz has always needed to improve on his mechanics, especially in his lower body. It almost seems, because as a quarterback, you want your upper body and your lower body to be in sync. That helps with accuracy. That helps with not throwing the ball either high or low, really just being able to put it where you want it. And when you watch the film, a lot of Carson Wentz's issues have been his lower body isn't connected with his upper body. And that's huge for a quarterback. There have been other times where you see his back foot, he almost kind of does a little fadeaway with the throw. And then obviously that's going to affect accuracy.
Right.
Sometimes it seems like when you're a quarterback, you think about one of the guys that was the greatest of all time, but then also greatest of all time in terms of mechanics. You're talking about Peyton Manning. When you see those Peyton Manning throws, Peyton Manning was never stoic in the pocket throwing. He always used his entire body with those throws. You're supposed to use that torque within your hips and within your core. That's where that power is going to come right from. And a lot of times, if you see quarterbacks not doing that, they're more using their upper body and they're really trying to throw with their arm. And you sometimes see Carson Wentz doing that. So really starting from the ground up, and a lot of people are talking about how Frank Reich needs to help fix his mechanics. Frank Reich has a role in that, but when you're talking about mechanics specifically, that's more of the quarterback coach's job.
Yeah.
So Scott Milanovic, the new quarterback coach that's coming in as Marcus Brady goes to the offensive coordinator, he's going to be really vital in this, because he's going to be the guy that's working mostly with the mechanics for Carson Wentz, because Frank Reich can't just focus on the quarterback position, right? He's got the whole offense that he's and basically the whole team. Matt Eberflus kind of handles the defensive side, but you get it. Frank Reich still has a role in the whole team. So it's going to be Scott Milanovic's role to really help with Carson Wentz and kind of get those mechanics back on track.
Yeah. I think Frank Reich's role, if anything, with Carson Wentz is he's the one that's going to be most responsible for building that confidence back up. I'm with you. That's not really his job to go deal with the nitty-gritty mechanics, mechanical situations and stuff like that. I think his biggest role has got to be the guy who addresses the confidence issues.
Yeah, and I think Frank Reich, his role also can be how the offense is schemed up.
Right.
We can use Carson Wentz, I think, at best in a lot of RPO situations. When you have a Jonathan Taylor back there, Marlon Mack, Nyheim Hines, use the RPO and the quick passing game so that way you can set things up for Carson Wentz. Get those completions so that way it does build his confidence, and then you can set up the plays to take the big shots down the field to a T.Y. Hilton or a Paris Campbell. So I think that's gonna be where Frank Reich can really help the most too, not only establishing confidence, but just putting Carson Wentz generally in the best position to succeed. And I think that's going to be crucial. And I think we already talked about this too, but Carson Wentz doesn't have to do it alone. I mean, he's we definitely want him to play some hero ball. And when I say that, I don't mean that to do it when it's unnecessary.
You want him to be aggressive.
We can use his Right. We want him to be aggressive, and we can use his athletic ability to our advantage.
Right.
We don't have this statue in the pocket like Phillip Rivers. Carson Wentz can get outside the pocket, make some plays, do more of the RPO game, things like that. So it just doesn't have to be all on his shoulders. When you have a budding star in Jonathan Taylor, you have wide receivers and Michael Pittman Jr., Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton that you can get the ball to. You got this stud offensive line. You don't have to do it all yourself. Trust in your teammates and get it into those guys' hands and let your playmakers make plays.
All right. Realistic expectations for Carson this year, Andrew. You and I are on different pages with this. And it makes sense. Our arguments, I think, we've talked about this already a little bit. My expectation is that he plays fantastic football. My ceiling, I don't know if I want to call it an expectation, but my ceiling is MVP level football. And you're going to argue that, it's his first year in this system, although it's similar to, what he was doing in Philadelphia already. It's different. My argument is, well, he's got an actual offseason to prepare, whereas Phillip Rivers didn't. Your argument, Phillip Rivers, smart guy. One of the smartest quarterbacks Frank Reich's ever worked with. So there's going to be a little back and forth there. I'm saying absolute ceiling is MVP. I mean, absolute ceiling because of everything he has around him. Okay. He might have a couple more weapons than Phil Rivers had, especially if Matt can stay healthy, especially if Paris Campbell can stay healthy. Michael Pittman Jr. is in his second year now. He's going to have a full offseason. So my realistic expectation is fantastic quarterback play from Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I would love that. I would love to see Carson Wentz be an MVP caliber quarterback. I just think realistically, you're almost kidding yourself, because I mean, 2020 was bad for Carson Wentz. It really, you can't, while he had all those factors around him, he still was bad. Like you can't take that away. Just say like, oh, blame it on everything. Sure. He played a big role in that too. I mean, he was, there were plays where he could have easily made throws, easily made better decisions, and he just didn't. Yeah. So that has to change. And I'm saying realistic expectations for me is I do think those first couple games probably he's not going to light the world on fire. I really don't think so. I think it's going to take probably, I would say, at least 3 to 4 games for him to get settled into this. While it is pretty much the same offense, it's all different terminology. He said Carson Wentz kind of put it as it's almost like you took the first like a couple years of say Spanish, and now you're kind of in the years 3 and 4 of Spanish. You kind of know the base of it, but you still have a lot of work to do. And as far as him having the offense down by week 1, I think that's not going to be an issue. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there are going to be some bumps in the road.
There's a difference. I do think, though, in regards to your Spanish metaphor, there's a difference between knowing it and being fluent.
Yes, yes. So there's going to be some bumps in the road, but I do think that with the talent around him, with him being back together with Frank Reich, I can see Carson Wentz returning to say 2018, 2019 Carson Wentz, where not I wouldn't say a top 5 quarterback, but I'd say borderline top 10 quarterback. And I think that that's very realistic to see. By the end of this year, we could talk about Carson Wentz being a top 10 quarterback in this league. Because, I mean, you look what happened. We took Phillip Rivers from one of his worst years ever to a great year. And I'd say Phillip Rivers last year was between a top 10 to 15 quarterback in the league. I think with Carson Wentz, we can see that too, have one of the historically bad year for him, and he can turn it into becoming back in that top 10 conversation. So, I mean, I want him to be an MVP, obviously, as a huge Colts fan, but realistically, I think it's going to start out a little bit slow, but Colts fans just need to be patient and stick with Carson Wentz as he kind of continues to build chemistry with this team, and I think we're going to reap the benefits towards the end of the year.
That's fair. I had a thought, and it has slipped my mind. Oh, well. I don't know. I think he's got a chance of having a really good season. Your boy Colin Cowherd thinks he's going to have a really good season, and I know you respect most of his opinions. I can't see him being a below top 10 quarterback. I think top 10 quarterback has got to be the line. And you mentioned a slow start. Maybe 3-4 games. We don't have time for that. I mean, with our schedule, we simply do not have time for that. So, I mean, we've got a huge game against Seattle week 1, and, I mean, he's got to be ready to go. There's just not going to be room for excuses. Nobody's going to care. That's the thing. Like, nobody's going to care that, it's a new system and, it takes a little time, and he played bad last year. Like, people are expecting him to turn around and play some good football. And they're expecting, Colts fans are expecting that because that's what Frank Reich and Chris Ballard, I don't want to say are promising us, but, they made this move. We gave up not a ton of draft capital, but we're paying them a pretty significant amount of money. So, the expectation is you're making that kind of money. You better get it kicking in gear pretty quick, which, there's nothing to say that he couldn't. The second this trade happened, before it was even official, I think he was already on his way to Indy, and he's thrown, or wherever, and he was throwing balls with the receivers, working on routes, yada, yada, yada. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, I know Colts fans are wanting to light the world on fire, but Colts fans also need to be realistic in this. Yeah. I mean, he was historically bad in 2020, and it's not like you can just flip a switch and he's automatically going to go back to the MVP level. So Colts fans, while everyone wants him to be great, they got to be realistic about this. It's going to take some time. No player is going to go from that bad to that great in a season. It just isn't going to happen. It's going to take baby steps, not confidence, mechanics, getting used to this new team, getting used to the system again. It's going to take some time. So that's why I want to give that month or so. And I know the schedule is tough there, but that goes back to what we were saying. Carson Wentz doesn't need to be MVP Carson Wentz for this football team to win games. You know what I mean? We just talked about it. Jonathan Taylor, the offensive line, the weapons, this defense. We haven't even talked about the defense yet, and this Colts defense is going to be another top 10 defense again this year, borderline top 5 as these guys take the next step. So that's the thing. The pressure, it is on Carson Wentz to perform, and he has all the tools around him to succeed. But Carson Wentz doesn't have to play hero ball. He doesn't have to be the guy that wills this team to wins, because the Colts have such a complete team. So Carson Wentz can struggle a little bit and still work out, and he doesn't have to play fantastic football, and we can still win those opening games because of what's around him.
I agree. Now on to QB2, assumed QB2, Jacob Eason. He's going to get his chance. It's, everything we keep seeing, it looks more and more apparent that he's solidifying himself as the backup. And realistically, I don't know who else the backup would be. You talked about in your article, Andrew, that it would appear that he's second, QB2, because the Colts didn't go sign any veterans. There's rumors that we were interested in Alex Smith and signing him as a backup, as a good veteran presence. But me personally, I don't think Carson Wentz would have appreciated that. Maybe he would have. I don't know. But there's nobody else. I mean, I don't think Sam Ehlinger, our sixth round pick. Yep, sixth round pick. I don't think he's going to, be anywhere near ready to be backup quarterback. We'll talk more about him here in a minute, but Jacob Eason's probably going to be the guy. We're going to finally get to see Jacob Eason on the field during this preseason coming up in August. What are your thoughts on Jacob Eason right now?
I think the Colts are confident in Jacob Eason right now. We got to remember that last year when Jacob Eason was working out after practice because he wasn't getting any reps in practice, just because Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett were getting all the reps. He was staying late after practice, and he was working out before games. I'd get there early and watch the workouts pregame, and Jacob Eason's out there throwing routes with Desmond Patman, just working on the different routes and the different schemes that they were going to use in that game. And the coach that was out there doing all this with him was quarterback coach Marcus Brady, who's now the offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. Marcus Brady, probably more than anybody on this entire Colts team, knows Jacob Eason best and knows what he's capable of. So I'm sure those conversations happened this offseason where they were asking Marcus Brady where Jacob Eason was at in his development. And the thing with Jacob Eason is too, it's never been about the physical aspects of his game that were in question. The dude's got an absolute cannon for an arm. And it's been all about the mental part of the game, his ability to read coverages, to get checks at the line, to make sure everybody was lined up, to really just grasp an NFL offense. That was always the big thing. And when Marcus Brady talked a couple weeks ago even about where Jacob Eason was at, he said he was really impressed. And I put this quote in my story where he said all those things that I mentioned, the checks at the line, the checking the pressures, making sure everybody was lined up correctly. Jacob Eason was really had a command of the offense so far in the early OTA program, because there were those couple days where Carson Wentz was out sick with an illness. Jacob Eason was running the first team, and they said he did pretty well. So I think that, and then like you said, the Colts did not sign another quarterback for the number 2 spot. That just shows the confidence that I think they have in Jacob Eason, and they're ready to see what he's got. So it's going to be interesting this preseason and during training camp when he's out there and we can actually get to see him for the first time and see what he's made of.
I really appreciate having a reason to watch the preseason. I think last year, with it being our first season as a show, I think I would have paid closer attention for sure in the preseason, but we didn't have one. So this will be my first preseason where I really give a shit, I think, at least for a game or two. How many games are there now? 3? 2?
There's 3.
3. You know what I mean? That's still too many. I think 2 would be great, but I would always
say more football is a good thing.
I know,
You're
but
saying
it's not
to eliminate a preseason
football.
game?
It's not football. You know what I mean? It's just I'm talking regular season football that matters is what I want to see. This year though, because I'm so interested in seeing Jacob Eason, I'm going to pay close attention to the preseason. It's typically just boring football. It's not fun to watch. I've never been a guy until last year that paid attention to, much of the second string, third string positions, especially not in, linebacker, offensive line, stuff like that. I certainly have not paid attention to, so I'm excited to see Jacob Eason live. Hopefully this doesn't happen, Andrew. I obviously, knock on wood and whatnot, but we've talked about there's a chance Jacob Eason sees playing time in the regular season this year. There, again, the last couple injuries, especially that concussion that knocked him out in 2018. Thanks, Clowney. 2019. There's a possibility Carson Wentz gets hurt this year. That's a real possibility. I never went into a season thinking Peyton Manning might get hurt. Well, Carson Wentz might get hurt. So Jacob Eason, I mean, is he ready for the backup role? But also, like, hey, it's real this year. You could be stepping on the field.
Right. It's a very big offseason for Jacob Eason. Not only just because you're going to be the backup quarterback, when you think about it, the reason the Colts invested into Jacoby Brissett when Andrew Luck was here is because we saw what happened when we didn't have a capable backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's one play away from taking the field and leading this team. Mm-hmm. And Carson Wentz does have the injury history. Whether it's his fault or not for those injuries, it really doesn't matter. He's had the torn ACL. He did have the back issue in 2018 that kept him out. He did get hit on that incredibly dangerous play by Jadeveon Clowney. And so there's always that possibility. So Jacob Eason not only needs to prepare to be the backup quarterback, he needs to show his maturity as being able to prepare as the starter every week, because he could be in the game at any point if something does happen to Carson Wentz. So that's also going to be very important. As far as the preseason games go, what I think fans need to watch in regards to Jacob Eason is maybe not really watch his stats per se, but especially because in the preseason, the way the Colts do it, and definitely this way with Carson Wentz, don't see a bad stat line by Carson Wentz and then start freaking out. One, it's preseason. Two, the Colts keep their stuff very, very vanilla and very, very basic in the preseason because they don't want to give anything away, and they just don't want to.
Most teams do this.
Right. They don't want to really give up an edge in the preseason when the games don't matter. So I think what you need to do is kind of just watch the basics for Jacob Eason. See how he has a command of the offense. See if he's making those checks at the line and kind of pointing out the pressure. See how he handles pressure. One of the biggest knocks on him was that when he has pressure in the pocket, he's not very good. So that's something to keep an eye on. Just
hey, you know who else isn't?
The developmental process for Jacob Eason throughout the preseason.
You know who else isn't good under pressure?
Who's that?
Tom Brady. And I mean, I don't mean the pressure of a game. I mean, when he's getting pressured by defenders, when he's getting hit, he stinks, which I just remembered earlier, my brain fart. That's what I was going to mention. You mentioned Carson Wentz, mechanics breaking down, yada, yada. Tom Brady, his last year with the Patriots, there were some throws that he made that were off because he knew there was pressure coming. I think Tom Brady, I don't want to go as far as say he was seeing ghosts, but Tom Brady made some bad throws because he was trying to get rid of the ball because he knew pressure was coming. But anyway, Jacob Eason, I feel like we haven't talked about him in regards to what we liked about him last year in the first place. It's that arm. The physical attributes of this dude are killer, and that's, I think, what I'm most excited to see. Is him just throwing the pigskin.
Right. And the thing about Jacob Eason that I mentioned, I mentioned it in my article, but a lot of people don't know this. Jacob Eason, while he's been training out in Southern California this offseason, not only has he been working with Michael Pittman Jr. and Desmond Patman out there, he's been working with Tom House. Tom House is the same throwing guru that has worked with Tom Brady, that has worked with Drew Brees, that has worked with Andrew Luck. He even worked with Carson Wentz. He did work with Carson Wentz in 2017. Right before his MVP season. And here's the thing. I just found this out this week. So here's some insider information.
All right, guys. This is why we like the Andrews with Sports Illustrated now.
Apparently the Philadelphia Eagles did not like that Carson Wentz was working with Tom House. And then when he started not working with Tom House, things started to regress. I don't know if Tom House is working with Carson Wentz this offseason. You might want to check out Horseshoe Huddle here this week or in the next couple weeks, because
free ads
we
for
do
another
have
Colts podcast
about about Tom House coming out soon. But the thing is here, Tom House has helped good quarterbacks and really help them with their mechanics. So the fact that Jacob Eason is working with Tom House and getting that kind of teaching and being able to use those kind of mechanical tricks that Tom House teaches, that's very important. And I think it's only going to bode well for Jacob Eason as he continues to progress and continues to get better.
All right, we're reaching our limit here for positional previews, so let's move it along to the probably third string Sam Ehlinger. 6th-round draft pick, athletic dude. Andrew writes about him in his article as well. I loved the fun fact about him being only the 7th player to carry the captain position with Texas for 2 years ever. That was a really cool fact. Talks about his character. That says a lot about his character is what I'm trying to say, which obviously important to the Colts. I'm excited to talk about his potential role in the offense this year, because I think you and I both think there's a chance we do see him on the field, just not in the way people might expect.
Yeah, and I think Sam Ehlinger, the thing that stood out the most to me is after the draft, what Chris Ballard said about him. Chris Ballard was like, whatever it is, he has it. So this kid, he's phenomenal football character, and he's a kid that with that competitiveness that he has, he's going to do whatever is asked of him, and he's going to do whatever he can to help this team win. The Colts are very high on Sam Ehlinger because he is a proven winner. He had, I think I saw that he had the 4th most wins as a starting quarterback in Texas history. So you think of all those phenomenal teams in Texas football history, Sam Ehlinger has the 4th most wins. He's a winner. He really is. So, and kind of what you were talking about is what we might not see him in that conventional role. The kid's got some legs on him. He had 33 rushing touchdowns at Texas.
It's a lot of rushing touchdowns.
He's not necessarily a speedster. Yeah, he's not necessarily a speedster like a Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson, but the kid's powerful, and the kid's not afraid of contact. So could we see Sam Ehlinger in like a Taysom Hill sort of role that the Saints have used with him, where use some RPO action, or if they want to use him on some designed quarterback runs just to switch things up? Even like how the Colts used Jacoby Brissett last year. They would bring in Jacoby Brissett. He was a big dude and could get those 1 or 2 yard rushes right up the gut. Now Sam Ehlinger is not as big as Jacoby Brissett. Sam Ehlinger is only about 6'1", 220 pounds. He's not the 6'4", big 230, 240 that Jacoby was.
Right.
But he is kind of like Taysom Hill's size. So if you want to use him in those RPO games or more of those designed runs, that could be something that the Colts kind of have up their sleeve and have a role for him. Now, and I don't think that he will ever see the field in the traditional quarterback sense for the Colts. It would have to take a lot for that to happen, but he could definitely see a role on this team in some gadget type situations, I think. Listen,
Jacoby, his role as a runner was that he was a bigger guy. He's not the fastest. He wasn't, the most athletic quarterback, but he had strong legs. He could push through on QB sneaks. And you had the threat of him possibly throwing the football, even though he threw, 2 balls, I think, last year, where they actually let him throw one. So this guy, Sam Ehlinger, is much more athletic, a much faster guy, and definitely more. I'm not calling him Taysom Hill. I mean, nobody is Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is a freak athlete. The way they use him in New Orleans is fantastic. And you know what? Probably going to be starting quarterback for the Saints this year. Andrew disagrees, but we'll see. But yeah, I like to see. I'd like to see a little Sam Ehlinger using his legs this season. Okay,
it'd be fun to see.
Prediction. I mean, I think we've already given our prediction for this position. I think every week we're going to do a prediction. Probably talk about starters, how we see that position group doing. We're gonna. It's gonna be in the order we already said: Carson Wentz, Jacob Eason, Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah, I would say that Jacob Eason, I think, will end up holding down the number 2 spot. We already just talked about it. Sam Ehlinger might see a role sparingly, but the however far this team goes is how Carson Wentz plays, and Carson Wentz is undeniably the starter, and it's going to be very fun to see the transformation that I think we can see from Carson Wentz, from how bad he was last year to, I think, at the end of the season we'll see Carson Wentz being a top 10 quarterback.
I hope so. Let's move along to some other Indianapolis Colts news, Andrew. So the Colts have signed a couple of rookie signings here. Our tight end, Kylan Granson, and quarterback, Sam Ehlinger, have signed their rookie deals.
And that was the last of the rookies to get their deals signed. So now we have the entire 2021 rookie class officially under contract. It's all good to go.
Perfect. Good to see. Peyton Manning and Edgerrin James will receive their Hall of Fame rings during the halftime of the Colts versus Rams game on September 19th. That's our second game at home and second game overall of the year.
Yeah, and it's not only are we going to get to see Quentin Nelson versus Aaron Donald, we get to see Peyton Manning and Edgerrin James at halftime. So if that doesn't put a little bit more juice to that game, I'm not really sure what will, but good to see those two legends back in Indianapolis.
I love that they're doing it the week that Big Q's going against Aaron Donald. I love that. That's going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to that one too. Next, this is very old news, and we kind of, because we were off so long, cut out most of the old news and tried to stay, more recent. But this one we cannot go without talking about. Adam Vinatieri officially calls it a career and announces his retirement from the NFL on the Pat McAfee show. Thank you, Vinny. Got a good thank you, Vinny, up here, Andrew, for you who cannot see.
Adam Vinatieri, the undisputed GOAT. There's so you can have a conversation on who's the greatest of all time as far as quarterbacks. You can't for kickers. Adam Vinatieri is the undisputed greatest kicker of all time. And in 5 years, as soon as he is eligible for the Hall of Fame, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer as well. So,
as an Indianapolis Colt,
thank you, Vinny, for all of the incredible memories as an Indianapolis Colt. And Adam Vinatieri, definitely one of my favorite players of all time, for sure. And I can't wait to see his name go up in the Ring of Honor in Indianapolis and then be enshrined in Canton.
By the way, Sam Ehlinger wearing number 4. I'm not happy about that. I am very unhappy about that.
Are you happy with Paris Campbell wearing 1 for Pat?
No, I'm not happy about that either. I think Paris Campbell should buzz off of number 1. I don't know. It was a weird move for him to just change it up. Not like anybody was buying his jersey anyway. Sorry, Paris, but you know what? He hasn't done anything. Somebody was like, "Oh, this is the symbol." Him moving into the number 1 wide receiver. I'm like, you are out of your mind. Like, he hasn't even played 1 season. You're not going to sit here and talk about him being number 1 wide receiver. Get out of town. Like that. Hilarious. He said the reason he changed to number 1 was because it was kind of just a fresh start, and he said he looks really fast in number 1. That's fine.
And he already talked with Pat. Pat was on board with him switching
right
to number 1. So I don't really have a problem with it, and I hope he carries on the tradition of number 1 in Indianapolis. We had an All-Pro punter. Hopefully, Paris can turn into an All-Pro wide receiver.
I know for sure Pat is always talking about, who's going to grab my number. Not always. That's a little overdoing it. But at one point he was, saying something about, maybe Carson Wentz should take that. I'd let Carson Wentz take number 1. I'd be cool with that. But it's Paris Campbell. Weird number for a wide receiver. It's weird to see that. But, new rules, and I'm fine with that because, I'm not Tom Brady. I'm not a big puss. So, moving along, some news around the league, Andrew, before we get into your new kid at school. First and foremost, Falcons make a trade. kind of a big deal. Wide receiver Julio Jones to the Titans for a 2022 second-round pick and a 2023 fourth-round pick. And didn't they get the Titans got a draft pick too, didn't they?
The Titans got a 6th-round pick back, so really not too. It was pretty much just an incentive to help them take on Julio's massive contract and take on all of it. So this is big. So Julio Jones going to the Titans, and it really gives them another weapon on offense. There was a lot of talk now of people kind of freaking out, saying that the Titans are now Super Bowl contenders. Pump the brakes. I do not see the Titans on the same level as a Kansas City, on the same level as Buffalo.
Same level as Colts.
Wouldn't even say they're on the same level as like a Cleveland Browns. The Colts are still favored to win the division. I mean, while they do have some offensive weapons, that defense is still atrocious. That defense is not great. Doesn't have a great pass rush. The secondary isn't good. So and the Colts are going to be ready for the Tennessee Titans. So while it does make them more difficult and certainly a much tougher matchup, the Titans are not going to run away with this thing. I still fully believe that it's going to be a neck and neck battle with the Colts and the Titans for the AFC South. And I think it'll come down to the last week like it always does.
I think a Julio Jones.
And by the way, the Colts get to see the Titans. The Colts get to see the Titans week 3. So we're going to see Julio Jones pretty early in the season.
I think a Julio Jones would have helped out a team like the Colts a little more than it would have helped out the Titans. I think the Colts are, and obviously we weren't ever going to take on that contract, by the way. I mean, everybody was talking about the Indianapolis Colts. Nobody wants to talk about Chris Ballard and the things we know about Chris Ballard. For some reason, they just want to, the national media just wants to say, oh, well, Colts could use a big-time wide receiver, which is true. We could use a big-time playmaker. The Titans need a full-time receiver. You know what I mean? Like, they needed another full-time receiver. A.J. Brown was, campaigning to get Julio to the Titans. I don't think that's a very good fit, in my opinion, for the Titans, because I don't think Julio Jones, because, I mean, history proves it, he's not going to play a full season. You know what I mean? He's going to miss some games here and there. The Titans have a need at wide receiver still. But yeah, I do still think it's going to be a neck and neck season. Julio Jones is going to make big plays. Julio Jones will probably make a couple big plays against the Colts. But you know what? I don't think that pushes them. And obviously Vegas agrees beyond the Colts for the favorite for the division. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to see him in another jersey and to see him twice a year, maybe. Next up, Aaron Rodgers, not present for the Packers OTAs, holding out still. What do you think this means for the Packers?
I think it means that this is something serious. And I really, because Aaron Rodgers hasn't missed OTAs his entire career. He's always been there. Now, do I think that the Packers are going to trade him? I still don't think they will. I really think it's going to be just who bites first. Will Aaron Rodgers retire? Will he just give in and he start showing up at training camp, or is he gonna, or is the Packers just gonna sit there and let him retire? So it really doesn't seem like the Packers are in any hurry to trade Aaron Rodgers. So I don't think this is anywhere near done, and it's going to be interesting to see if he does show up in training camp, or if this is going to start going into the preseason and maybe even flirt with the regular season. But it looks like the Packers have been prepping Jordan Love to be QB1 just in case. So it's a lot of drama up there in Green Bay. And
Jordan Love says, hey, I'll be ready when week 1 rolls around. But I think I saw, and I don't pay that close of attention to this stuff, but I think I saw that he had a real bad day followed by a really stellar day in OTAs. But even in training camp, I'm never, like, oh man, I remember Andrew Luck threw 3 interceptions today at training camp. Yeah, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? I don't think that matters. The NFL and the NFLPA have agreed on a $208.2 million salary cap ceiling for 2022. nearly $30 million more than the cap ceiling this year. I don't much care really, as long as it's higher than this year. But it just doesn't make sense to me. And I've listened to a couple of different media outlets talk about this. It doesn't make sense to me for them to announce that now and already.
They like to announce it before around this time each year, just because it allows teams to prepare for the upcoming years. Because a lot of what has been holding up the Colts as far as getting extensions done for Braden Smith and Darius Leonard has been that they're not certain what that cap is going to be next year and going down the line, and that really is important to teams and how they structure the contracts of not only their own but potential free agents. So they like to get it done as soon as possible. So
do they announce the
can prepare
cap
for that and start making moves toward getting extensions done?
They announce the ceiling, or do they announce
ceiling?
Right,
so
no,
that's the highest.
Hold on. Do they normally announce the ceiling, or do they normally announce the floor around this time of year? Because it seems weird to announce the ceiling, except for the fact that, they did miss out on a lot of money this year. So I think next year they're putting a ceiling on the cap now so that owners, honest to God, can make some money back.
They always announce typically what the ceiling is going to be. It's not the final salary cap number, but teams can plan on that's as high as it will possibly go.
Right.
So you can plan on that, but typically it ends up just a little bit lower. But they know it won't be any more than the $208 million that's going to be set for next year. So I think that, but like I said, it really helps teams figure out extensions and how they are going to plan for the upcoming season and free agency.
And then just a couple of signings. The Vikings sign cornerback Bashaud Breeland to a 1-year deal, and the Ravens and running back Gus Edwards agree to a 2-year, $10 million extension.
So Bashaud Breeland coming from Kansas City the past couple years, the Vikings could definitely use help in the secondary, and Gus Edwards agreeing to that contract extension, that just helps that potent Ravens running back room. They've really got some weapons back there. So good for Gus Edwards. I think he was undrafted, went from undrafted to now getting multiple contracts. So good for him.
And now we're going to move on to Andrew's segment. Let's just call it what it is. It's Andrew's segment. You can find this segment under a different title to be determined, here with the Horseshoe Huddle when he starts writing about this as a weekly segment. But this is the New Kid at School. Andrew, the floor is yours.
So, New Kid at School, if you're new to the show, what we do each offseason is each week we talk about a different rookie, kind of give some background on their story, how they grew up, just so that way you get to know these new Colts players before training camp. So we're going to start out with Kwity Paye, the Colts first round draft pick. He was selected by the Colts with the 21st pick in the NFL draft this season, and he was born on November 19th of 1998. Makes us feel pretty old that draft picks are now younger than our younger brothers. So, but he was born in 98 in a refugee camp in Guinea after his mother Agnes fled Liberia during the aftermath of the first Liberian Civil War. So his mother got out of that war-torn country and was able to get Kwity in a safe place. He was named Kwity after his maternal grandfather, who was killed during the war, and then his mother immigrated them to the United States, him and his brother, when Kwity was only 6 months old. So they settled down in Providence, Rhode Island when they came to the States, but they lived in the projects. They did not really live in a good part of town there in Providence. There was a lot of gang violence. There was a lot of shootings. There was a lot of drugs, but they really couldn't afford much else because they didn't have anything. They came from nothing, from the Civil War in Liberia to the United States with nothing. And his mother really didn't even know how to read or write at the time that they came to the United States. So not only is she working multiple jobs to just put food on the table for her young boys, she's also teaching herself how to read and write so that way they can survive in America. But as they got older, Kwity and his brother began to love the game of football, and Kwity was becoming a pretty good player at a very young age. And then he attended Bishop Hendrickson High School in Warwick, Rhode Island, and Bishop Hendrickson is a football powerhouse in Rhode Island, but it's a private school, and the tuition is very, very high. So when the prospect of where he was going to high school came up, Kwity talked with his mom, and he told his mom, if you send me to Bishop Hendrickson, you will not have to pay for my college. I will either get an academic scholarship or a football scholarship. And so Kwity's mom put in the extra hours, sometimes working 2 to 3 jobs at a time to pay for the tuition so Kwity could go to Bishop Hendrickson. And he kept his promise to his mother. He was a star on the field and in the classroom, got phenomenal grades, and he played running back and defensive end for Bishop Hendrickson and was named Rhode Island's Gatorade Football Player of the Year in 2006 as a senior. So he originally committed to Boston College, but then switched his commitment to the University of Michigan, where he played football there, fulfilling his promise to his mother that he would get a full ride scholarship and his mother would not have to pay for his college. So as he got to Michigan, he immediately made an impact. He saw the field as a true freshman, and then he entered the starting lineup as a sophomore, where he ended up starting 4 games and then getting his first 2 sacks as well. But where he really came on was as a junior. He came on as a junior, and he started 11 out of a possible 12 games. He had 6.5 sacks, 12.5 tackles for loss, 50 total tackles, and then made second team all Big Ten. And Kwity Paye is also known for his leadership. As a captain, he was named, or as a senior, he was named captain of the Michigan football team. And he ended up with, as totals in his college career, 11.5 sacks, 23.5 tackles for loss, and 97 tackles. So this kid just went out and absolutely balled. And then obviously becoming a first round pick in the NFL draft, he fulfilled his promise to his mother. And it was awesome to see on draft night when they were interviewing him, he said that his mom was now retired. She was not going to work another day in her life. Mm-hmm. Truly a rags to riches story, going from a war-torn country in Liberia to being drafted as a first-round pick in the NFL draft. Just that, the American dream, absolutely awesome. Now, when we talk about his impact with the Colts, you watch it on the tape. Kwity is an absolutely explosive defensive end. He's got a relentless motor too. You see sometimes where plays he has no business being involved in, and he's the one that's ended up making the stop. He's very mature and intelligent. Obviously, he was an honor student at Michigan, and he talked about it this offseason that it was pretty cool that he didn't have to focus on school. He could actually just go play football. And I think with all of his attention on football, you're going to just see the true potential and the true ceiling of this guy come out. He's got great bend for a defensive end, and he's really powerful at the point of attack. You really see that on the tape, just how powerful and forceful he is against opposing offensive linemen. And I really think the Colts scheme is going to help Kwity Paye, because at Michigan, Kwity Paye was asked to do a lot of reading and reacting and more playing the run. Mm-hmm. In the Colts scheme, he's going to be put out at defensive end, and they're going to ask him, hey, go pin your ears back, go get the quarterback, go be that pass rusher, and go attack. And I think that's really going to help, because when you look at his production in at Michigan, it doesn't necessarily stand out as him being dominant, but when you turn on the tape, you see all of the attributes that you want to see in a possible dominant defensive end. So I think being in this scheme, you're going to see his production and his numbers as far as pass rushing is concerned just go up completely. And he's really good against the run. He can play the run and the pass. In the pass, he does need to develop a little bit more of a plan or a secondary move to his pass rush. But when you're working with Robert Mathis, when you're working with Brian Baker, the Colts have already put him in contact with Dwight Freeney to see if Dwight Freeney could help. That's going to come. And you're going to see that evolution of the pass rushing for him as he gets more time in the Colts system. And honestly, I think what I see in Kwity Paye is the potential for another Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis type pass rusher. I mean, I never thought he would fall. He was the best pass rusher in this class for me. I never thought he would even fall to the Colts at 21. I thought he would probably go around the 10th pick. The Colts got extremely lucky that he fell, and I think Kwity Paye will be the starting right defensive end, taking over that spot that Dwight Freeney had for so long. I think he'll be that for many years to come and be a potential perennial Pro Bowler for the Colts as well. And that's Kwity Paye, new kid at school.
Fantastic segment. Andrew, I would love to see Dwight Freeney come back and like actually officially be helping out with the Colts defensive line, kind of like Robert Mathis is. I don't think that'll ever happen, but to know that he's probably working with Kwity some, I do love that. But that's it for this episode. Go follow us and all the things. I should probably, pull that up for you guys. But listen, we do have a new name coming. We've got it in the works. It's going to be a little simpler. I'm not going to have to spell it for you. But a new name coming, a big announcement in regards to our podcast as well, separately from that. As you've noticed, we are not participating with the former network that we had mentioned. We have pursued another opportunity that we're really excited about, but that is not going to be going on here until closer to the season and preseason. So be on the lookout for that news. Go follow us at all the things at the Educated Fan. That's at TheEducatedFan. I think possibly new name announcement could be coming this week. I just had to basically we've got the new name. We just need to update our art, our logo art. So we're just waiting on that. Hopefully that's done today. And other than that, Andrew, do you have anything else? I don't think I have anything.
Just go follow us at all the things, Twitter, Instagram. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, subscribe, hit that bell, follow us on Twitter, and also go check out Horseshoe Huddle. I mean, I'm with the stuff we've got going on there is great. I'm excited to be a part of the team. I've got a couple articles, but basically my first article was just a deep dive into the Colts, previewing the Colts depth chart for 2021. This week, like you said, I'm going to have a big piece out on Kwity Paye as a rookie, kind of giving more in depth of his backstory than I gave here. And so that's going to be really fun to go check out. And then I'm also going to be previewing the Colts running back depth chart and taking a look at the running backs this week. So make sure you check out Horseshoe Huddle. Make sure you check out my articles. I greatly appreciate it, and all the other articles on the site. But hey, it's great to be back on the Educated Fan. I missed it for sure.
It is great to be back. We do post and retweet Andrew's articles on our Twitter, Facebook. I could probably start posting them on Instagram somehow for him. Maybe. I don't know. I don't like him that much. But that new kid at school on Kwity Paye is going to be interesting. It's a great story. It's going to be the best one because of his incredible story. But I do have in our comments here some ideas for what the title should be. He's not using the title. So what are some title ideas from you guys? I have a couple here that I thought of while he was talking. Rookie Rundown, the Rookie Files, Rookie Roundup, something different. Here's what you can do. Either go comment on the YouTube video once it's fully posted. Don't comment right now. Or go, leave a review on our podcast through Apple Podcasts. And as a fun little project, you can, in the comments, write a review, give us another name idea for Andrew, or if you like one of the ones I did. Andrew, I don't know if we can time this right with our little lag we have going on right now, but until next time, you know what we say. We'll just have to say it early. Go Colts.
Go Colts.
I fucking love football and I love you guys.